Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. My advice, keep it. Oh, my fellow Caped Crusader, I don't think you fully understand the ramifications of... Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Player Display. Today we are looking at the Mcfarlane Collector's Edition, Platinum Edition, Superman 1978. That title's a little erroneous, but we'll get to that later. But for now... Scalpers, what you gonna do now, huh? Now, before we get into the review, some credit is due as to how I acquired this figure. As you folks may know from this channel, I did coordinate with First Order Films, my college buddy, on a video called Nostalgia Time, where we just reviewed our own toys and had a little bit of fun there, so you can check that out if you want later on. But since that video, we have actually been working together to get each other our toys. She has been looking for certain Platinum Editions out in the wild, and for her, I've been looking for Beyblades. So, she found the Platinum Edition Christopher Reeve Superman in the wild, and I got her a Beyblade off of eBay. So, we're both very happy. If you want to give her a thanks, like I am right now, then please do go ahead in the description and check for a link to her channel and give her some support and give her a sub while you're there. Why not? All that being said, that brings us to this Platinum Edition, which is pretty interesting. I like what they're doing with Platinums lately. Rather than simply just repainting or not painting a base figure just because, they now do it with a little bit more purpose. They either repaint a figure so it looks like as they looked at a certain period of time within DC, or they retool them ever so slightly with different head sculpts, hands, soft goods, or whatever to turn them into a whole different character. In this case, it is a repaint with the same parts as the original, meant to actually call back to Superman 3, not Superman 78. Superman 3, I've only watched it a handful of times, but it is not a great movie. And that's coming from a Batman and Robin lover, okay? It's a very strange movie where the star of the film is Richard Pryor instead of Christopher Reeve. I've never understood that. But that being said, the best part of this movie was when Superman went dark and we got an evil version of Superman. Now, how did this happen? He kind of got his hands on, like, some synthesized kryptonite or something like that. And then he went out, he got drunk, he, skated past his kid and flew off into the air. And then he fought his own self instead of being Clark Kent after he shot out of a beam from his forehead. They duked it out in the junkyard, and ultimately Clark Kent prevailed. So, a little heavy-handed symbolism for an inner turmoil, but that being said, it has become my favorite moment in an otherwise bad movie. If you enjoy Superman 3 for reasons aside from evil Superman, please let me know in the comments, because I gotta know. But all that being said, let's get into the packaging, and this is exactly the same packaging and presentation as a standard version of this figure, who I currently have in my pile of loot over at BBTS. He hasn't shipped out yet. I just gotta hope that he's not also a Platinum. But that being said, the only difference between the two boxes is the Platinum label, and that's it. Everything else, identical. Down to the foil that we got over here, being the Mcfarlane Collector's Edition, Superman, and erroneously on the side, we have Superman, the movie, 1978, not proper for this particular Platinum version, because this would be the third movie that it's coming from. But off to the back, I don't think anyone's going to complain that we do have an excellent portrait of Superman in front of the American flag. Again, I've stated this before, Christopher Reeve is the best actor portrayal choice for a comic book character in cinematic history. I know he's one of the first, but still, I think he remains to be topped. But we'll see what the future holds. Off to this side, just some more window. Off to the top, the window continues, so you get some nice, beautiful light shining on this dark and brooding version of Superman. So all that being said, I got the usual tools of the trade. I got Donny Boy and Betsy. Oops, heard them cling together. That's never happened before. Well, anyways, I'm gonna pop the Superman out of his trap within the Phantom Zone. Alright, midway through unpacking, we gotta talk, because just like the comic variant of Chris Reeve that we just looked at, this dude also has oil splotches on him. So I don't know if that's gonna be the norm from now on, that they oil their action figures. I guess I get why, so that way the joints keep moving and everything, so that's just a little precaution. But that being said, they're definitely doing it in exorbitant amounts. A little too much for my liking. I'm afraid I could potentially mess up the cape. Fortunately, it doesn't seem like it has. But yeah, you can see that little glistening spot right there. That is not the gloss of the figure. That is actually oil. So once again, I'm going to have to take my time to wipe this off. But I wanted to let you know, so you know, if you do find a copy of this Platinum Chase variant. Alright, here's the figure, and overall, I am very happy. There's only one thing that I want to change about it, and I'll probably do that off to the side outside of this video, but we'll get to it when we do. But before we begin, I did actually want to start things off a little differently. I first want to show you everything that this figure comes with, because it's largely the exact same arsenal that the comic variant came with, and it's probably going to be the exact same thing that the standard version comes with, obviously. So, first things first, we have the trading card over here. I guess we'll start here. And I believe it's the exact same card that we saw before. So we got Christopher Reeve over here. Oh no, it would be a different card, because on the other one, it would have the comic page up front. That's right. So, got Christopher Reeve. Off to the back, exact same generic bio that you'd be seeing with any Superman figure, really. Although this time you do have more of that platinum effect on the top, because again, this is a collector's edition. Over here we have a flight stand, which is always a good thing. Although I noticed that there's a little bit of this foot in the back when you assemble it. I'm not sure if that's always been there, but let me know if I'm wrong, but that might be new. I'm not too sure. Then down here, we got a whole bunch of hands, and all of them are identical to the comic version that we saw before. So you have an open hand, we got a key-holding hand for the Fortress of Solitude, pointing hand, kind of a gesturing flight hand, two gripping hands, which are a little bit more clenched than this one over here, two flight hands, and then we have an alternate head, which we will spend a little bit more time with, rather than spending time with these millions of hands over here. So, all that being said, let's talk about the base figure. Actually noticed that my phone camera lens was a little bit gummy, so I just cleaned it off, so hopefully the rest of this review will be a bit more clear. But anyhow, here we are at the figure. Now, this head sculpt's an interesting one. In fact, all the head sculpts are rather interesting between this one and the standard release, because both of them have two head sculpts, but each of them come with a head sculpt that's meant for the main figure they come with, and then one other that's meant for the other figure. So, for example, over here we have the mean head, which is meant for the evil Superman, of course, but then we have this alternate head, and if you're paying attention to the hair, this is meant for the standard good guy Superman. So, interesting that they did that. We'll do head swaps later, but this is actually also present with the classic, this is the mean one, Mr. Grinch. So, the differences between this head sculpt and a standard one is he has this very distinct frown on him, he's got some 5 o'clock shadow, his hair's a little unkept, as you know from the movie, he goes to a bar and gets wasted a bit, so he's a little bit more of a washed up Superman over here, but it's great head sculpt. I kind of wish that instead of this laser vision head that we got over here, which I don't really love, I prefer that we would have gotten an alternate expression for this evil Superman. This one's fine. I actually dig this a lot, but I would have preferred if they had one with exposed teeth or a screen or something like that, just to make him have a little bit more angst, as he did in Superman 3. That being said, that doesn't dock points for this one over here. I think it's really well executed. We already talked about 5 o'clock shadow. It's got some very distinct blue eyes in there, very well applied. Then you also have the hair, which is different from the hair that you have on the good guy Superman. Also done with a very good dull coat, which I think is remarkable. Looks great, very good. No fluxes of blue that you'd be seeing with the comic variants of Supes, so that's really good. And also you have that curl, but this time it's a little bit flared off. This is almost like the equivalent of the emo Peter that we've been seeing in Spider-Man 3. Interesting. And Spider-Man 3 and then Superman 3, you get an evil version of their respective titular heroes. So, that's interesting. Now, moving down to the suit. Now, the first thing I want to mention right away is it's great. It's a great body mold. And rumor on the street is that this is a whole new body mold, which is great. At least the torso is. So, I'm very happy about it, and it looks really good. However, the one thing I do want to mention that I wanted to change is you'll notice how shiny everything is. And this is supposed to be an almost 100% cloth suit. So I do want to use some dull coat and see how that turns out. If I ever do it, which I almost definitely will, we will do a YouTube short on that, and you will see it there. That'll be a lightning mod. But for now, this is the body that we're working with. So gloss coat aside, what did they do? They darkened all the colors to make it more accurate to as he looked when he took this turn for the worst in the film. How did his suit change color? Beats me. Just a side effect of that bad kryptonite that he had in his hands or something like that. So, but it's a cool looking suit. I know it's just a color change. Same with the Venom symbiote suit in Spider-Man 3, but it still looks good. It's still cool. And here we are. We got it in plastic form, I think, for the first time. So it's pretty neat. You got the Superman logo over here. One thing I did want to mention is it is raised. I don't personally agree with that. I feel like it should be flush with the rest of the suit over here, but it's not a bother on the eye. It's only really ever noticeable on closer inspection, like here with the camera, or when you're poking at the suit and you can actually feel the outline. So it's not the worst thing, but I do think it is an odd choice. I feel like it would have been better if it was smooth from a manufacturing standpoint as well, so they could keep reusing this body for other figures, you know what I mean? But now, if they want to reuse it, they gotta either fill in the hole or replace the logo entirely. But I don't know what their plans are, but it's a good base body for other characters in the future. The arms, on the other hand, might be reused. I'm not totally sure about that. The only issue that these arms have is there's a noticeable cuff at the end, which I believe is accurate, but similarly to what we saw in the comic variant, there is a blue joint in the wrist, which is not too accurate to the film. Most would prefer that it be flesh tone, because of course the sleeve should stop here, and so should the blue, but instead we got more blue, and then we got the flesh fist on top. Honestly, it doesn't bug me a whole ton, but yeah, that is inaccurate. There's no real defending that decision, if you can even call it a decision. It might have just been an oversight, or Mcfarlane being a little lazy. Another thing I really did want to mention, I talked about the darker colors, like the darker blues, yellow ever so slightly, and the red, which is more of a maroon now. But also, if you're have a keener eye on this figure, there are visible splotches of dirt. And I know I'm pointing at what looks like nothing right now, it's because of the light, but it's more visible on the boots, actually, where it's really heavily done. So you can see it there, and you can see a bit more on the diaper there. So there is dirt throughout this figure, which makes sense, because during the final moments of this evil iteration of Superman, he was in a junkyard, he was rolling around in the dirt, so it makes perfect sense. Another reason why I really want to get the dull coat, it will make the dirt more visible, so really looking forward to trying that. Down here on the diaper, it's the exact same mold as the comic variant, I believe. You got the clip in the middle, you got the belt, then you got the red down here, and then the rest is exactly as you'd expect. You got the blue, you got the boots down here with a lot of dirt and soot in them, and it's an excellent looking piece of plastic, but of course with a little piece of cloth to boot and some wiring. This is a really great cape. I was actually very much looking forward to it, because it is also color swapped, but also on the inside it is a lighter shade, which I don't think is accurate to the film, but I like it. It adds a little bit of contrast and makes it feel a little bit comic booky, so that's very cool. And of course on the back, what's a Christopher Reeve Superman without logo on the back of the cape? Very important. Good thing they didn't skirt right past that, so very nice to have. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is the noticeable difference between this one and the comic version. I know I keep bringing up the comic version, but it's the only other Mcfarlane Reeve Superman that I have, is the difference in the neck and the sculpt and the cape and the way that it's anchored in. On the comic variant, alright, hell with it, I'm just going to bring him in, he's right here. You'll notice that we have the giant neck sculpt that almost takes into account the shoulders branching off across the top of the torso, and then it's pinning down the cape underneath. Here, though, it's a little bit better. You have a smaller neck sculpt that just goes down to the neck and stops there, and then the cape gets pinned in. So this is a lot more screen accurate. And then over here, it's much more different and cartoony, and I personally don't mind it. A lot of people discredit this figure because of this decision. I find it more confusing, because I don't know why they wouldn't have just used the treatment that they had over here and with the initial variant and dropped it over here. But that being said, I think it still looks cool. It's a more stylized version and more cartoony version of Chris Reeve, so it actually doesn't bug me too much. But if you had to twist my arm and make me pick between the two structural decisions, yeah, definitely prefer this version over here. Once again, hands are all the same, so we're going to skip past that department, but we can at least do a head swap. So let's pop the angry face off, and even though it wouldn't be too accurate because this is the good guy looking face, he does have laser vision, and I guess laser vision means evil, but you could pop that head sculpt on, and it feels a little out of place to me. But I guess from a distance it wouldn't be too bad. I mean, if you flared out the cape a bit, pop out the camera, he still looks pretty neat. Although the flesh tones do feel off. The face feels quite dark, so it does clash with the rest of the flesh tone, I think. But yeah, this is more useful if you have the standard variant of the Superman. Really hoping that the one I have at BBTS is a standard and not another platinum, because that would be an issue. Given that this dude is all oiled up out of the box, I suspect that articulation should be nice and swift, but this is a brand new body, so let's check it out. Up at the head, at least in this head sculpt, you have good tilt, you got your down, whoa, and a little bit of exorcist popping out kind of early. He can actually look up a better amount, and you can make him look pretty straight out. So if you get his at least one fist going up, one back there, yeah, he could do the flying out pose pretty good. And it might vary depending on what head sculpt you're using, but at least for this one, it's definitely in the cards. Looks great. You got your swivel, as we kind of already saw, full exorcist, cape, whatever direction you want, butterfly joints up here, so all the way around, out, in, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows crunching all the way in, Mcfarlane basic wrists, so you can do whatever you want. Torso, best way to do it is I like to just combine the torso with the waist at this point with Mcfarlane figures, but holding them straight out, you can bend that far down, maybe even further, that's really good. Nice soft diaper down there. Bending back all the way, so wow, the mobility is top tier on this figure. Really excellent. Although if you bend him that far back, you'll notice that there's some gap in this upper leg here, which might kind of eat the diaper. So disgusting! That being said, we also have legs. You could do a full splits and beyond. It goes further than a split, which is pretty nuts. As for legs kicking up, pretty good. And then as for going back, also nice, although you do get that gap, as I mentioned before. Double jointed knees. This one did not get any oil. Wow, it is quite stiff, but goes all the way to the butt. So, very good. No swivel in the calf or anything, that's normal, but you do have swivel in the ankles, which is very important as a substitute. You also have back, forward, toe articulation, which is always stiff on all my figures. Don't know why. That's okay, I never use it. And then you get your rocker. Speaking of rocker, this is a rock star of a figure. Loving him a lot. Can't wait to get the classic version. Now here are size comparisons with the small army of Superman to start. I have a few other surprises as well that we'll be pulling in later. Firstly, we have the little itty bitty baby NECA Superman with a custom overseas head sculpt, which of course I'm going to be planting onto the standard version, the collector's edition anyways, so not going to do the swap here today, but when I get the normal one, we're going to take that head and pop it onto the new. So that'll be really interesting to check out. Over here we have the comic variant, which is, I think, just a hair taller than the Platinum over here, just by a little bit. You could barely notice it on camera, and that's probably just on behalf of the different torso and neck that we have. I think everything else is probably the same. Then over here, I've mentioned him before, and what good is a Superman 3 Evil Superman without a Clark Kent? Now, this isn't, again, distinctly a Chris Reeve Clark Kent, and also proportionally he's a little off, he's a little short, but it works. Now we can have them duking it out in a junkyard at some point. But now if we move a few fellows out of the way, so I guess we'll take you guys and we'll grab you. There's a lot of folks who also like to imagine what a Chris Reeve Superman would look like in a shared cinematic universe. And depending on which way you swing, I brought in two Batmen. First, here's Adam West. He's crouched down, but even straight up, just trust me on this one, I don't feel like taking him out of this really good pose. He is shorter than Chris Reeve. Also note that he has a custom paint job and cape, because I screwed up the cape in the past to know the sad story behind that. But anyways, people also prefer this Superman with the Michael Keaton Batman, also with the custom head sculpt and custom cape. And he is naturally a little shorter than Chris Reeve. I think simply because of the actors, different head sculpt, and the fact that this guy is by default in a little bit of a squat, so that's a tad awkward, but whatever, there you go. And lastly, of course, we gotta cap things off with the Star Wars Black Series, Quash, and Mechamuck!
And then all at once, like, boom, gone.
Ha! That's really funny, actually. A whole planet being obliterated? I can't imagine that happening ever. Shh, I think this shady guy here overheard us.
This is a nearly perfect figure. Literally, my only complaints, which aren't even really complaints, it's just aesthetic preferences, is that firstly, I wish that there was dull coat in the suit to not only get rid of the shine, but also bring out the dirt that they took the effort to put into the paint. And also, perhaps they could have added a screaming or gritted teeth as a head sculpt or something like that, as opposed to the laser vision one, which does not really cooperate with this base body as much. I mean, you could put it on there and it looks fine, but again, it's more meant for the nice guy Superman, so it doesn't really work here. That being said, I think the likeness is pretty strong on the face. I love the different color palette in the suit. It's a really good change. The cape is beautiful. It's a little porous. I think all the Mcfarlane capes are at this point, but honestly, I'm getting used to it. I think they're very nice now. I really like the quality and the stitch work. The colors are great. The head sculpts are good. All the hands, I know we didn't talk about them here, but we talked about them already. They're all fine. I mean, they look good, and it's great that we got that many. Got the flight stand, good card. It's a good Platinum Edition. I'm very pleased with it. And on top of that, a very good Collector's Edition. I forgot that it's both. But highly recommend this figure if you're able to get him. One of the reasons why my friend and I coordinated is because this figure is ludicrously overpriced on eBay. But then again, if she lives in New Hampshire, try your luck. Maybe you'll be more lucky than me. Maybe at your place you'll find like 5 of them. I don't know. I remember the day where I found like, 3 or 4 Cassandra Cain Batgirls at a Target. So you could get lucky sometime. So this is one of those figures where if I never ever found him, I'd probably customize the comic variant with some paint and turn him into the evil Superman. But if I never got a hold on him onto this one, then I wouldn't cry about it. But the fact that I have him, whole new world. And it looks like we'll get all 3, as long as I get the standard version from BBTS and not another Platinum. But time will tell. We'll see how that plots out. Still waiting on a few more goodies in the mail, and then that's when I'll jettison that shipment. Then we'll review that original Superman along with some other surprises. So that being said, this figure's a win. Hope you enjoyed this review, and if you enjoyed, then please, as per usual, be sure to
Like, comment,
Ring the bell to be notified of our latest arrivals. And subscribe.
Yeah, hi, Mechamuck here. If you want to see more from Pod Guy, then please be sure to check out the Pod Plays channel down in the description for some Let's Plays. And if you want to support the channel a bit too, you also got the Pod Patreon, which is down in the description as well. See you around, folks!
Thank you guys very much for watching. Rock on, and I will see you all later.